Hey everyone, it's Lexie. So in today's video I'll be sharing with you my favorite scary, intense reads. So like these are ones that have like frightened me. I tend not to read books that are like scary. Like these aren't necessarily like horror, but there are aspects of it that I found frightening or scary. So I thought this would be a fun one to do because I think like books that really spark that fear or that emotion, like there's something really unique in just that, like how they can just create such that visceral like response to something that like we're reading in our heads. Like I think that's really interesting. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So don't laugh at me with this one, but this one like terrified me, and it was Gravity by Tess Gerritsen. So basically the premise of this, it follows a woman named Dr. Emma Watson. I know, a little bit funny, who is a physician, and she is part of the like NASA team. So she ends up going up to the International Space Station, but when she's up there, there is this viral outbreak and people start dying. Like no one knows how to deal with this. They are trapped basically in a prison basically, and they are all kind of really close together and just taking care of everything. But this combines two of like my greatest fears: space travel and like viral like outbreaks that no one knows how to treat. Like that's like completely terrifying for me, and just the way it's like described, and like like having that like super virus that no one knows how to deal with. Like it was like basically Ebola but like times 10. But yeah, it's just terrifying. Like something like that's like my greatest, like one of my greatest fears. But the way like it's just written is really intense, and like there were times where I actually had to stop reading because my heart was beating so fast. I'm like, okay, I think I need to take a breather for a little bit. But yeah, this one was really good, and if you are like a fan of that, like if you like The Martian, I think you'll like this. I didn't like The Martian, but I like this a lot better. So you know, try this one as well. Like I said, it was really good and it really got that response out of me. Next I have Cold Blood by Bryndza, and this one wasn't one where I was like terrified. It was just like that feeling you get when it was just like, you know, something bad, like that feeling when you get in like your stomach that you know like when something's bad or like something bad has happened. Like I had that response with this one. So basically this is part of the Erica Foster series, and this is like the 5th or 6th one in there. But what was like really like what makes this one stand out for me is that it deals with a kind of couple that's on like a murder spree, and just it talks about like it shows like the narrative from their perspective and just that toxic environment and like them going through these things, and like how like one's more dominant that kind of forces the other to do that. Like it's very unsettling. And yeah, like I've like there's been like Criminal Mind episodes like this, but like for some reason this one was like really creepy and almost kind of like that Bonnie and Clyde mentality, like they're like it like them breaking the law and all this stuff was like kind of heightened their romance for each other. Just like that dynamic is really unsettling for me. So this one was really hard to get through, but like that made it really, like at the end of the day, like it made it a better book because of that. But yeah, it was just really troubling and upsetting. Next I have Dark Places by Gillian Flynn, and this is my favorite book by this author. I feel like this one is what is really creepy. Like when I when I read, like I visualize everything in my head, and like it's basically like what they started doing in like the 5th, 6th, and like 7th and 8th Harry Potter films, where it's just they have like that dark filter over everything. Like that's how when I read it, I like see it in my mind with a dark filter. But basically this follows this girl named Libby, who is the lone survivor in this, like when her family was massacred, she was like the lone survivor, and she testified in court that it was her brother who killed her entire family. But now 30 years later she's kind of having those doubts. So she's like, while she's having these doubts, we kind of revisit the past and like the events leading up to it, and it's just terrifying. It kind of reminds me of a book I had to read for school, In Cold Blood. I don't remember the author, but it's based off of a true story of this family that was just kind of murdered out of the blue, that was completely slaughtered, and like no one knew, like it was like a biggest mystery of all time, and it was following kind of the criminals side of the story. It, like, that same feeling where it's just unsettling and it's like haunting. I think that's a good way to describe it. Yeah, so like this one, it's very dark and twisted, but I like it because of that, and it's just really intense and creepy, and you don't feel good reading it, but if it sparks that much of a emotional like impact to it, I think that's what makes it really good. So this is one that like book that's really kind of different for me, and it is The Winter People by Jennifer McMahon. I read this a couple years ago, and like it was really good, but it's like I don't think I'll be brave enough to read it again. But basically it follows this like family that moves into this very old kind of house in Vermont that's surrounded by forest, and there is kind of an urban legend with this house because it follows like basically a woman who lived there in the early like 1900s, ended up killing her family and herself, and it's kind of been known as haunted. But in the woods in this town there is what's known as the Winter People, which is like what people think, basically people who die are kind of wandering this forest and kind of in limbo. So there's kind of that legend there as well. But when like the girl who's there, like when her mother disappears, she's like not sure what to do with it, but she stumbles upon the woman who used to live here diary, and just some of the way like it's very creepy and eerie. And there's one character in here, and she's kind of described as having kind of like a fox face, like not like a fox like anthropomorphic like face, like it's just like the features of like dark and sly, and just like she would kind of be peering in from the trees. Like that terrified me. And like you can see, like we live in the forest, my bedroom's on the main floor, like that was like a no-no for me. Like it terrified me. But there's kind of like a creepy paranormal aspect in here as well, and it's just really eerie. Like this one like terrified me. Like I said, like I was like, alrighty, I'm gonna have to close the blinds, like I don't want people looking in. Like we live in a very safe area, but I was like that like terrified me. And lastly, I have the Diviners series by Libba Bray. This one, like I wasn't expecting it to be terrifying, but just the way it was described, like it like freaked me out. Basically the premise of this, it takes place in the Roaring 20s in New York, following these people who are known as diviners. So they have kind of some like magical ability. So one girl can touch like an object and know like the history of like the person who owned it and all that stuff. One person can like walk through dreams and like all this stuff. So but basically there is this kind of mysterious person who's almost like a ghost basically, but he's really bad, and he's been going around killing people. And just the way like the chapters that talk about like him going and doing these murders are just really creepy and eerie. Like it really, like I don't know if you remember the Scream Team like Disney Channel movie that was actually filmed in my hometown, and we actually met some of the actors because we went for a walk there and they came up to pet our dog. But that movie terrified me, and that just like creepy feeling of like that dark force that like no one really knows, and it's just creepy. Like that gave me the same sense. So I think that's why like it terrified me. Like there's this evil dark thing that's going around killing people, and it's just like those chapters are really really eerie for me, like terrified me. So yeah, like I said, like it was just really creepy. But I do love, despite that, I did love like the setting, and then this is probably one of my favorite kind of paranormal series, and the next one comes out in February, which I'm really excited about. So I'm very much contemplating rereading the first 3 books because I forget a lot of the details, and like the last one ended on like such a cliffhanger. Yeah, these ones really freak me out. So that's it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what some of your favorite kind of scary, you know, frightening books are, and for whatever reason, like For me, some of these are like silly, but they kind of ingrain like some of my deeper fears. But yeah, let me know. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye guys.